All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast. NFL schedule is officially out, which means we are one step closer to the return of football. Joining me today to break down the schedule, as he did last year when it was a much bigger deal, we had nothing going on in sports because of COVID. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. Really excited to be on about this. This is to me kind of like how baseball was this year. You know, how we get some fans back. Like, this is a big deal this year because we're going to get some fans back in the stadium. Last year, like, whether you were home or away, it didn't really matter. I think last year had the most, like, even distribution between home and away wins, like, ever. So I'm excited to get home field advantage back.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal because, I mean, just today, Governor Murphy was saying in New Jersey, and recording on Wednesday the 12th, the day of schedule release, that assuming all goes well, he should be able to have 100% capacity at MetLife Stadium for Jet and Giant games this fall, which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, even if you get 75%, that's still good enough. And 100 is just great. So looking forward to it.
I am indeed. And before we dive into the specifics of the schedule, and I'm going to give some visual aids in the video version of the podcast, you can see the graphics of each schedule we're describing here. I want to take a shot at the league here because for weeks now, we're hearing Wednesday the 12th at 8, we have the schedule release show. You're going to tune in to see all the games. And then throughout the day, starts out in the morning, week one, the entire week one slate is out about 8 o'clock in the morning because ESPN, CBS, Fox, all the partners have their games up. Then we had the week of the London games. Then we had Thanksgiving. Then we had Christmas. Then we had the entire schedule. So the Jets, the Patriots, and the Saints, and more starts leaking out as it got on. By the time the show actually aired, about 80% of the schedule, I would say, was public. And to me, what's the point of doing the 3-hour schedule show if you're going to leak the entire thing before it starts?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's the dumbest thing. Also, like, you have to realize, it's very obvious. I'm sure you realize this, but sometimes people don't realize this. If you know who let's say, for example, I think it's week 4, the Giants play the Saints, right?
Yep.
If you know that, you know the Saints play the Giants week 4, that means the Giants play the Saints week 4. So you can figure out other teams' schedules. By the time it was released, I think you could have figured out every game. Pretty
much. I mean, I got shots to the guys that were at 506 Sports who basically are masters at tracking the NFL schedule. They have all the Twitter sources. They track everything. They have a master sheet going. And I was looking at about 7:30 because I was like working on some articles I do for Fanside, like copying down the prime schedules. But at that point, they had every Thursday night game down, all but 2 of the Monday night games down. And I think the vast majority of Sunday Night Football was on there, along with Thanksgiving, Christmas, so on and so forth. Like, why did I need to watch the 3-hour show? Because I knew everything.
Yeah, it's really at 3. I didn't even know it was a 3-hour show. That's crazy.
NFL Network is 3 hours. I think ESPN is 1.
I think a better way to do it, I mentioned this to you off the air, is take this show. I didn't know it was 3 hours. Make it 1 hour. Go from 8 to 9. Make it like Selection Sunday. Yeah. Do a thing where you do like by, instead of doing it by team, because that would be
pointless.
Like I mentioned, if you do it by team, then you're figuring out other teams as well. By the time you get to the last team, it's already done. Do it by week. Do 4 weeks, take a commercial break, do 4 weeks, take a commercial break like they do in Selection Sunday. Like they do each corner of the bracket, and it would be great. I would have tuned in for that if nothing was leaked, of course. I understand if you want to leak like one game, you want to say like the opener was leaked, it's going to be Dallas versus Tampa. That's fine. But then give me a reason to tune in.
Yeah. I mean, you want to get week 1 in the morning, that's fine. Say, okay, here's week 1. Here's a teaser. The rest is going to be on later. But I mean, Brian Costello is breaking games. Like Master Tess on Twitter is broke Thanksgiving and Christmas. You had
and you can't blame the reporters because they want to be the first one to get the story out.
Yeah. It's like at some point, somebody in the building say, like, guys, shut your mouths until the show is on. Like, don't.
Yeah, and we know that's not hard because we've been on this podcast numerous times talking about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and all these big movies and TV show, and they keep everything a secret. They kept Julia Louis-Dreyfus a secret from Marvel for how long since they filmed it, or God knows, or since they brought her on. How long did they keep it to be a secret that Harrison Ford was in The Rise of Skywalker? I know we'll talk about that in a future time. We'll talk about that movie, but he was in it and they kept it a secret. And I don't see why they couldn't keep an NFL schedule a secret.
I don't see why they can't either. I just don't think they want to keep it a secret. I think they're just are so eager to tell people oh, I gotta let somebody know what's going on here. I gotta leak this. And that's why I
really wish they didn't. I would be watching it right now if they didn't.
Yeah, I would watch the show. I mean, can you imagine you brought up Selection Sunday? Imagine if we were on Selection Sunday, you're watching the Big Ten championship game, and somewhere on Twitter breaks Oh, by the way, Michigan State's going to be a 5 seed, and they're going to host, and they're going to take on number 12 seeded Drake. And Michigan State is playing their basketball game. Like, how annoyed would you be?
Yeah, the game's for nothing too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that gets down to the sideline too, to the bench, and they're going to be like, "Hey, this game means nothing." By the way, take out their star player, whoever it may be at the time.
Yeah, it's really dumb. But let's get into the specifics of the schedule here. I'm going to include visual aids throughout the video portion of this podcast. You can see on YouTube. So let's go to the Jet schedule first. And I'm pulling these graphics from the team's like Twitter accounts. Jet schedule is up here. Open on the road, Sam Darnold game against Carolina. They host the Patriots home opener. Other highlights on the schedule. They go to London. They take on the Falcons in October 10th. Their bye is week 6. Thursday Night Football against the Colts in Indy on November 4th. They close on the road against Buffalo January 9th. When you look at that Jet schedule, what are some of the things that you noticed?
I mean, I have to ask you. You've been following the Jets this offseason. I'm a Giants fan. Are they much better than they were last year? Obviously, they're better. Are they much better? Because it looks like none of these games are winnable.
I think they are much better than they were, because I think that team last year could have won 0 games. I think this team can win 6 or 7.
Okay. So you think they can take on, I would assume, Carolina, Atlanta, Cincy, Jacksonville.
Here's the thing.
Maybe Denver, Houston.
Yeah, here's the thing with the Jets, the way I see it, because you look at the first 7 games of their schedule here, like up through the Bengal game on Halloween. They have, I guess, granted 4 on the road, but 1's in London. 6 to 7 games against teams that not make the playoffs this year. The one team that made the playoffs is Tennessee, that they played the first 7 weeks of the 7 games of the season. So there's a chance, maybe they're 4-3, keep things a little interesting before they get to the second half of that schedule. I think.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah,
I mean, Cincinnati, I think, is better than the Jets, but that doesn't mean the Jets can't beat Cincinnati, especially at home.
Yeah. Same thing with New England. There's no reason they can't split with New England. And we don't think New England's fans made them that much better. Yeah,
and when you're a young team and you start 4-3, all of a sudden, a lot of confidence. I know this year's a little different with the extra game, but usually 4-3, it's, hey, if we win 5 games out of our last 9,
we're in the playoffs.
We could be in the playoffs, yeah.
Especially in a 17 postseason.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So now I would assume you need to go 9-8 to make it.
I'd say probably more 10-7. Like,
yeah, it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird, but I enjoy the extra game. Why not? Just another week of football.
Yeah, everybody's complaining about like, oh, integrity of the schedule. We're going to ruin the guys. Then in about 5 years, we're saying, why do we have 18 games? Why are we only playing 17?
I want to just know what a lot of fantasy leagues are going to do. Are we going to just move the playoffs back?
I think it's just playoffs going back. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So then week 7 or week 18 becomes 17 and so on and so forth, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to throw one complaint out here for the NFL. Why do the Jets finish on the road every single year? I mean, they have not had a home finale since 2010. They are on the road.
Is that so?
That is so. The last time they hosted their last game was against the Bills, and that one, and the year they went 11-5, went to the AFC Championship game, lost to Pittsburgh. They have not hosted a season finale since then. I think the Giants have hosted every year since.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm right here. It's a coincidence that the last time the Jets finished at home is the last time they made the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it's safe to assume they're not making the playoffs this year.
Well, I mean, we could assume that even without that fact.
Yeah. It seems like if they get a home week 18 game next year, they can pencil them in.
Yeah, I just feel like it's so annoying because they're all the Jets and Giants Eagles. Yet the Giants are home to end the season. I feel like every single year. The Jets are on the road every single year end the season. That's the road division game, which is never easy.
Yeah, I know. When did they start the division rule? Around that time, probably.
It was 2010 because it was right the year before. Remember, on the Sunday night game was week 17 was the Jets and the Bengals had nothing to play for, so they laid down. The Jets got in the playoffs, so they said
they played the Bengals again in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. So they said, we're not going to have that. We're going to make it all division games so that their teams can't just lay down the week 17 if they don't need anything.
Tell that to Philly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of the NFC East situation, let's go to your team. Let's go to the Giants schedule here. And I think obviously they have some interesting stuff here. As we talked about off the air here, I think they have a chance to get off to a fast start. Look at the first 4 games. They have the Broncos at home. They go to Washington the short week on Thursday night. Then they host Atlanta, go to New Orleans. New Orleans without Drew Brees now. I mean, this is a team that, could go. I can see them going 3-1 to start the year.
Yeah, I'm going to go a step further. If the Saints do take a huge step back without Breeze, we don't really know what they're going to be yet. So on one hand, I want to say they're going to be dead. They lost Drew Brees, but on the other hand, it's how good was Drew Brees his last couple of years, last year really. So are they going? But anyway, let's say they take a huge step back. I can see them starting 6-1.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting them to, but I can see them beating all those teams except the Rams. I think are really, really, really good. I think the Rams are the team to beat in the NFC besides Tampa. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not expecting it again, but I would not be surprised if they started 6-1. I also wouldn't be surprised if they started 2-5.
Yeah. There's a lot of variation with the Giants here. And I do think, I'll just say note here, neither Giant Cowboy game was in primetime this year, which is like a shocking thing considering the NFL loves to do that.
Yeah, that is surprising. They're also not opening against Dallas, which they seem to do a lot.
Yeah, the NFL
open in Dallas on a lot.
The NFL gets lazy with some things, and the Giants Cowboys being week 1 was one of their lazy things. They love to do that, especially in Dallas.
This year, we're going with Denver at home, and potentially could be very scary if a certain trade happens. But without that trade, I think that's a very winnable game.
I think it's a very interesting game, especially if Mr. Rodgers is traded to Denver. I do think that makes it a lot harder for the Giants to win that game. But the thing I noticed with the Giants here is they got some tough Monday night games. They have to go to Arrowhead on Monday night. They have to go to Tampa on Monday night. That was brutal.
Yeah, those are just two that you can pencil in, I guess, as a loss. But you also got to remember, I can't remember if it was a night game or not, but I think it was. The Giants played Tampa last year at night. Yeah, they were down by like 1 the entire game.
Yeah, that was at home though.
I thought it was in Tampa. All right, well that makes sense. So they wouldn't be in Tampa now.
Yeah, and you look down the stretch of the Giants also 4 of their last 7 games in division, so that's going to be very important down the stretch for them.
Yeah, I'm a little upset we didn't get Philly earlier. I know a lot of Giant fans, me included, we wanted Philly as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of Giants. I saw a lot of buzz on Twitter right before the schedule. I was like, hey, we want Philly week 1. We want to get a shot at them for costing us the playoffs.
Yeah, it costing us the playoffs, taking our guy in the draft. The Giant-Eagle rivalry died down a little bit because when the Eagles were good, we were bad. And we were both bad. When we were good, the Eagles, it's vice versa, we haven't both been good in a while. And I don't know if we're both good now. We'll have to see. The Giants really could see them winning 5 games. I can see them winning 11 games. I just really don't know I don't really know what to expect from them, but this is looks like the rivalry's back. The Eagles brought it and we're ready.
It is back. I also want to look at one other team, as you mentioned with Aaron Rodgers here, the Green Bay Packers. Very interesting situation by the league because you know that Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP last year. They're saying, oh, we're going to put the Packers in prime time a bunch. They have a bunch of marquee opponents. It's going to be great. And right before the draft, Rodgers says, I want out. Get me out of Green Bay. So the NFL is in a tough spot with them because what do you do with some of these marquee games? You want to put them on there, risk in prime time, risk Jordan Love being the quarterback. So I think the way they handle this is interesting. They have some of their bigger games, like they're getting against the Chiefs, they're getting against the Rams. Those are like 425 Fox games where they're going to be like in a spot where they can be the main game if Rodgers is there. But if they're not, they can be replaced pretty easily. They're prime time, and they're actual like prime time games. They have Monday night against the Lions, which is whatever. Sunday night in week 3, 49ers, a little curiosity factor there, the Niners. And 2 in the back half of the schedule, they be flexed out if Rodgers is not there and the team stinks. So I think a very solid approach to how the NFL handled the Packers.
Yeah, they set it up. They set themselves up to save themselves a little bit if something happens here. They also have middle of the year Arizona on a Thursday nighter.
Yeah. Well, Thursday is also tricky because everybody has to do it at least once.
Yeah, usually I don't know what it is about Thursday. I'm not interested really. Usually, I feel like every week I look and it's Jacksonville versus Houston every time.
Yeah,
it's somehow Jacksonville plays in every Thursday game in my mind. But yeah, I think it's obviously a good idea. You have that Chicago game and that Viking game in there that easily be flexed out, which they have to do if Rodgers isn't there. I mean, I don't know about you. I think if Rodgers leaves that team, that's a 3-win team.
Yeah. Joe D'Alizio, a friend of the podcast, host of the Shark Terror podcast, a big Packer guy, said the same thing. He said, Aaron Rodgers is not there. This team is going to be last place in the NFC North.
So I agree, but at the same time, Detroit's one of the worst teams I've ever seen.
Yeah, but Detroit will also be starting Jared Goff at quarterback, while Green Bay be starting Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Like Jared Goff
Yeah.
can find his way into 5 wins, and it's hard to see Jordan Love getting like more than 3 after a redshirt year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just really hoping for his sake, I hope he gets traded. For Packer fans, I know they don't want that, obviously, but for his sake, like what the Packers have done to him, like I've seen some crazy stats with like touchdowns thrown to wide receivers picked in the first round and stuff like that. And they haven't given him a thing. I think they kind of just assumed, well, we have Aaron Rodgers. Let's build everything else except our passing game because we have Aaron Rodgers instead of helping him out. And if they helped him out a little bit, I think he'd be breaking every record possible that he's not breaking already.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about the primetime bag. We have obviously Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. Which of the 3 interests you the most?
It's got to be Sunday for me.
Yeah.
There's just, first of all, a lot of the teams carry over, but obviously the teams are going to carry, but the matchups themselves, like looking at them, I don't see a matchup. I see one matchup actually. And if you want to include those Packer ones, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, then I see 3 or 4 if Aaron Rodgers again. But I only see one matchup, assuming Rodgers stays on the Packers, that I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And that's week 1.
Yeah. The Bears.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think the Bears suck.
Yeah. Well, that is entirely, I think, TV markets because they wanted to get the Rams to spotlight because this is a sort of idea last year is, hey, we're going to show off the new stadiums, but there were no fans in the stadium. So they say, we'll give you a do-over, have it with fans. So that's why the Rams, I think, are on Sunday night week 1 again. As the Raiders are hosting Monday night week 1 again. So they're giving the spotlight in the stadiums with fans. But the Bears, not the best opponent because you're hoping Justin Fields shows up there. Otherwise, Andy Dalton on Sunday Night Football is going to turn into a pumpkin and the Bears will get blown out.
Yeah, I mean, as you just mentioned, the reason they're doing this is for the stadium. But I'd prefer this matchup, which I do a lot of times as the season goes on. I'd prefer if it was just flopped. Like if you were playing the Rams in Chicago, it's okay. Well, the Rams are a better team here, but at least we're in Chicago. This could be interesting,
Yeah.
And this matchup, I understand it's because of the stadium, but this matchup, it's like, all right, the Rams are better and they're home.
Yeah, not a great situation here. I think if Tampa was going to, I think if Tampa had not been in week 1 already because of the Super Bowl win, I think they would have been going to LA. That would have been the matchup. But because Tampa is playing Dallas, I think they took that off the table.
A good example of what I'm talking about is week 10.
Yeah.
You have Kansas City going to the Raiders. Kansas City is a better team, but you look at it and you go, all right, well, the Raiders are home and it's a division foe. This actually might be an interesting game.
Yeah. The one I don't understand with Sunday night, I'm looking at it offhand is like, how have the Vikings got on twice? Because they were not good last year. And I don't see the road to improvement this year.
They have, from my understanding, a basically entire new defense based on guys who are sitting out, people who were brought in.
Yeah.
People. So I think they might have a turnaround season. I think they're going to be an okay team with a little bit of luck. I think they could be a 10-win team.
Yeah, well, one of the matches against Dallas on Halloween, which makes sense because they can put the Cowboys on as much as they possibly can. So,
and the last one, I mean, honestly, when it comes with me, if I look at the last 4 weeks of the season, the Sunday night games, I don't even think of them as real Sunday games because
they could go.
Yeah, I mean, me and you would look at the schedule right now, and I look at, let's say, I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to be bad, but me and you look at the Chiefs and we say they're a great team, right? Because they are.
Yeah.
We look at the Titans; they're a very good team. The Bills are a great team. Then we look at teams like Jacksonville and Cincinnati and Denver, and we think they're bad. But every year we have new good teams. So who knows? By the end of the year, Denver might be good.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to throw Denver into one of these games. We don't know. Every year. That's why I always say when you're playing Survivor football, take the best team imaginable at the beginning, because by the time week 8 comes and you were saving the Chiefs, how do you know that another team isn't going to be good by then? You want to take the teams you're sure of immediately, or else you're going to get, I was trying to save the Chiefs, so then you lost picking the Falcons.
Yeah, I agree with that point. I also say the 2 Rodgers games back there in the back stretch there is potential flex out if he's not there. Also,
absolutely.
If the Saints are not good, that game against Tampa is going, because that is not a game that's going to draw well.
Yeah, what do you think? You think the Saints will be? I think they're going to be okay.
I think they'll be okay. I don't think they're going to be like the juggernaut we've seen them, baby. I think they're going to be more of like a 9-win team.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking as well. I'm interested in the Week 16 game. I always like watching the division foes beat up on each other, especially those Dallas Philly games.
Yeah.
Just love. I don't know, whoever it is, whoever wins, I'm just on their side. Like, yeah, screw the other team, whoever it is. I'm always excited to see one of them lose.
I'm also curious of the fact they put two of their heavyweight matchups, and sometimes the NFL likes to put like some of their big Sunday night games on in November for sweeps. They put in September Chiefs, Ravens, and Bucks, Patriots. Figure two of the bigger games on the schedule. They put them super early, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's Chiefs, Ravens is great. Bucks, Patriots. I mean, that's going to be. If I had to take a guess based on this schedule alone, obviously the week one. I'm assuming you would know more than me. The week one game ratings are probably higher than other ones, right?
The Thursday game on week one.
Yeah.
Thursday game week one is
I would assume that Tampa New England is going to be the most watched game all season, except maybe the first game.
Yeah, I think it'll be very, very high because the Brady returning to New England storyline is going to be huge.
Yeah. I liked a lot of the week one matchups too, like that the Jets Panthers, a little like, I don't know if they did that on purpose. I'm not sure if they really have the flexibility to do that stuff on purpose, but that's cool to see. Yeah, Sam Darnold. It'd be cool if it was, Jets were home, but that's cool to see that Darnold playing against his old team in week one.
Yeah, they say they don't, but they definitely find ways to manipulate things they want.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've tried making a schedule in fantasy football with 12 teams or 14 teams, whatever it was at the time of my league, and that's a nightmare.
Yeah,
like you can make a random schedule, sure, but like we like to throw in rules like a rivalry week and like a week one like storyline week where it's like if you played each other in the finals last year, you're going to play each other in week one, and it's so hard. So like for them to do this stuff with 32 teams, I can't imagine. And bye weeks and all that, I really can't imagine.
Yeah, and I pulled the Monday night schedule up because I want to point out a couple interesting things here, which is number one, the Monday doubleheader of years past is gone. We only have one game now because that game gets brought back into week 17 because they have the extra week to kick in. Plus, Monday night is going to have the ESPN guys are going to have the ability to flex after week 12, which is going to be huge as some of these games down the stretch here end up stinking. And they also have the option to get two games put on for week 18. They're going to pull from the Sunday slate, put them on a Saturday doubleheader. I think it'll help the Monday Night Football package in the long run.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you give them flexibility. Absolutely. Yeah. I personally don't like the two games on Monday when the season starts.
Yeah.
This year and last year might be a little different, but usually my reason is I got to get up in the morning and go to work. I can't stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning watching a football game.
Yeah.
So like if the game's starting at 10 o'clock, like I can't watch it. I got to go to bed at like halftime or something like that, or even before. But when they start the game at 8:30, I'll stay up. It's only, when does the game end? 11:30, 12, yeah. The latest. Fine, I can stay up for that, but I'm not staying up till 1:30 in the morning to watch a game.
Especially when it's like two West Coast teams. It's like the Broncos and the Raiders.
The Broncos and the Raiders every year. Like the one with that was the one Monday night a few years back. I think it was Broncos Raiders when it was that reporter on ESPN who just got slammed because he was like so awkward. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I do think going down the stretch here, I mean, I do think again, but I see week 15 Vikings Bears. I see that very much possibility to be yanked out of there if these teams stink.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see a lot of people talk about the Dolphins and how they're good. Do you think the Dolphins? I look at that week set. I look at the week after it, and I say, well, the Saints we talked about, they may not be all that special. If the Dolphins and the Saints are not special, and you have it's week 16, so they'll have played how many games at that point? 14 games. If you're looking at 2 7-7, 6-8 teams, is that going to stay?
Might not. Depends on what's available to them because they look at if it's close, maybe, but like. Let's say these teams bottom out. Let's say like Miami is 5-9 and the Saints are 4-10. That game's gone.
Yeah.
I think I also think that's it. Thursday night. There's not much there. Is always what it is. There's a reason it's going to Amazon next year because Fox says this is not worth it for us.
Yeah. I mean, I hate it. I really wish they would get rid of it. I really do so badly, but I know they never will. If it was up to me, they would have. I've told you this off the air. My dream scenario will never exist. But my dream scenario is every game of the week is played at 1 and 4:30, not 4 because I don't like them overlapping. Like they have the 1 o'clocks all end, then the 4:30s all start, and then you have one game in primetime Monday night. Now, obviously, that'll never happen.
No,
that's just money being wasted by not taking advantage of what you could. But for me as a viewer, that's what I want to see. That'd be the most enjoyable.
Yeah. I also think they've been trying to spice this up a little bit, because remember this first start was basically it's just division games because they had the travel rules you had to worry about. They're trying to mix it up a little bit here. It doesn't really land most of the time. I mean, Rams Seahawks is fun. I think getting the Chiefs Chargers down the stretch will be interesting. But again, Jaguars Bengals week 4. Nick Fraietta is not excited.
No, and the travel thing is real. Like you have Denver going into Cleveland, on week 7. That's if you're Denver, you're furious.
Well, week 16, San Francisco's to fly to Tennessee in Christmas week.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, you could look at Denver. Maybe Denver has their bye week 6 or 8. I can check that out.
They're not going to give it to them the week before. They never do that.
So you see what I'm saying is they could make that work in the middle of the year, but with San Francisco going to Tennessee in week 16, there's no way their bye is 15. There's no way it's 17 or 18. So you got to go into the middle of that after 3 days of practice. That's really crazy that they make teams do that. This Thursday thing to me is a disaster, and I also hate the London stuff too.
Yeah, the Jets are going to London this year. The Jets are playing in Atlanta. I thought it was playing Atlanta in London. I thought it was interesting that we're doing this when we still have potential for COVID restrictions going on in London. So
yeah, that is surprising. And I don't like the London thing. It's another one of those things, though, that at the end of the day, I get it. You're trying to grow the brand. You're trying to get international here, get more fans from Europe. Of course you're going to do that. But to me as a viewer, I don't want to see that. I don't want to not that I'm not up, but I don't want to watch a game at 9 o'clock in the morning. I like to watch football with wings and a beer. I'm not going to have wings and a beer at 9 in the morning.
Yeah. Plus, I
guess I could. Yeah. I guess I could have wings and a beer at 9 in the morning, but maybe next year.
Yeah, it's like me. For me, it's like basically I'm making pancakes and watching the football game.
Yeah. Which I actually, interesting enough, had some friends, especially I had one roommate in college who was from Seattle. He's a big Seahawks fan, and Mariners and all the teams out there. And I asked him, because one thing that was on my mind is I was just so what was that like growing up? For us, it was always 1 o'clock football starts. You can, in college, high school, you sleep in, whatever, you can go to the deli and get some lunch with your friends or a breakfast sandwich. You still have time. You're not missing kickoff. What was it like with the game starting at 10 o'clock in the morning? And he was like, it's awesome. We all would sleep over together, get up early, watch the games, and then it's all over. Everything's over by 8:30.
Yeah. And you slept your night.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'd like to experience that at least once, like a Sunday football or a football Sunday out in the West Coast.
Yeah, I do think that's definitely an interesting point here we're consider. And I do think in terms of the London games, SNY Steve Gales pointed out, because now he recently, he's the Mech sideline guy, and he recently got reported to Jets coverage. He was making a joke on Twitter today. He's because the Jets play in London on week 6 at 9:30 in the morning. So he's joking, hey, I got to do pregame show from the studio at 8:30, potentially the day after a Saturday night Met playoff game. That'd be a rough turnaround for Steve Gelbs.
Well, he's assuming a Mets playoff game.
Yeah, hey, with the way they're starting, you never know.
No, I think they'll be there. Honestly, I do. But yeah, that is. So it reminds me of what Boomer Esiason does when he's on calling the games, and he's on his radio show at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it is pretty nuts. And I do think that's one I want to track. And I always want to keep an eye on that, especially with the COVID stuff, because we've had situations where I get by this point, most of these guys in these traveling parties be vaccinated. So that won't be as big an issue. But you're worried about these quarantine rules. I'm sure the NFL will try and talk to the United Kingdom government and set this up. That's something you have to worry about with those 4 teams.
Yeah, I'm also a little thrown back by the fact that they're doing them back to back. Do you think that's a little normal?
Yeah, I think they wanted to just sort of considering it's COVID still, say, you know what, let's not risk it changing on us. So let's just get in, have our guys stay there once, and then come back, not have to deal with it again.
Okay, yeah, because you have the guys who are not part of the teams. All right, so back to back definitely makes sense. But another thing that threw me off a little bit was I feel like we know from how this world has behaved the last 4 months. Think about the world in January and the world now, with everyone getting their shots and restrictions being lifted. I think the difference of September to December is going to be huge. I'm a little surprised that they chose to do these games in week 6 and 7 rather than doing them at week 13 and 14. Maybe you just don't want to show London that it's pretty cold when you watch football. Maybe that's the reason why. But
I think it's more the buys where they have to give these teams the buys after they fly back, and they don't want to be giving the teams the buys in week 13 or 14.
You see what I'm saying? How the world in September is going to look a lot different than the world in December, hopefully for the better.
Yeah.
So that was something that I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We'll definitely put a pin in that.
So, do you know? I know in years past it's been week 12. Is that the last week of buys? Still?
I did not get the chance to check this out yet. I'm assuming it might be like started a little later, maybe finish a little later, maybe like 4 to 13, maybe 5 to 13, something like that.
Usually 4 to 12, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something they could have if they wanted to. They could have done week 11 and 12.
Yeah.
Out there, they could have, they could have done 11 and 12 out there, which should pretty much delay a month. So is a month as big of a deal? No, but 3 months is a big deal.
Then you're also running the Thanksgiving. You're going to tell the Jaguars, the Dolphins, hey, you're spending Thanksgiving in London instead of with your families. That's a tough sell.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of bridges to cross.
Yeah. I also want to have a bone pick with the league in terms of scheduling. I know the Jaguars there every year. We have to send the Dolphins out there with them because I think getting a game to the 2 Florida teams in Florida makes a lot more sense than playing it in London.
Yeah, that's kind of like a.
It's like if they took the Jets and Giants and said, "Hey, you guys are playing in London instead of playing in MetLife."
Do you think it's similar down there? I don't know. We have to ask. We have to ask our good friend Dan DiMartini, who's down there. Is it? Do you think it's like a Jets Giants atmosphere down there? Or do you think it's more like a Giants Bills?
But again, you have Trevor Lawrence there. They might have a little more juice this year.
True. I just wonder if the rivalry's like that.
I don't know
because I know they're in the same state, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not the same division even.
It's not the same division. It's not the same city like New York City.
Yeah.
Not the same stadium.
No, that's fair.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you're incorrect. I'm saying I don't know. Yeah. I'm saying I have no idea what it's like down there.
All right. 2 other things I want to hit before we wrap this up here. Thanksgiving. We have the Bears and the Lions, Raiders, Cowboys, Bills, Saints. I think this is a little weak.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I want, again, another thing as a viewer that I want that I know will never happen. Get the Lions off Thanksgiving. They're not good. They're never good. They haven't been good. They've been good once in the last 20 years. I'm tired of watching the Lions on Thanksgiving. It's a game where I don't pay attention at all. It's crazy. I don't care about it at all. I do not care about the Lions game ever. And then the Cowboy game is usually okay. And then the night game all depends on how the Saints turn out. If the Saints turn out to be okay, that's a good game. If the Saints don't turn out to be okay, that's another snooze fest.
Yeah. I was stunned. I was surprised they didn't put the Ravens Steelers back there after last year. They were supposed to be on Thanksgiving, and then COVID got pushed back about a week. So I was surprised they didn't make it up to NBC. So here you go. You can have them back in that slot.
It would have been a lot better, I think. I'm not really sure what to expect from Pittsburgh this year. Really don't know, but Baltimore we've seen a couple of years in a row now. They're a good team.
But those teams also hate each other's guts and will basically beat each other up on the field, no matter what the records are. Bills Saints don't care each other that much.
Yeah, I miss the Bengals Steelers rivalry from about 5 years ago. That was fun. Remember that playoff game?
Oh yeah, that was a good game.
That was a good time period for the rivalry for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot because again, that's one of the few traditions they had that the Detroit and Dallas both host games on Thanksgiving, and I think the Bears, I get why they did it because they're saying, you know what, we don't care about the quality of the game. People are going to turn the game on because it's Thanksgiving. They'll watch anyway. I think for a few years there was a point where they were trying to put better games on. Then they said, why bother? The ratings will be there. Let's not go for marginal upgrades and boost our schedule, which I don't like that practice.
You know what I noticed about Thanksgiving, and pretty much exactly what you just said is the reason why? The Giants and the Cowboys have never played on Thanksgiving.
Not for 30 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. As long as I've been watching football, I started watching the Giants. I remember my first Giants game I ever watched was the playoff game against San Francisco. So it was 2002, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that was the first game I ever watched for the Giants, that I had interest in. I watched that Super Bowl, but I wasn't really a fan yet. But they never play. They never play them on Thanksgiving. And I see why, because you can throw them in at the week 1 game, which they always seem to do, or somewhere else, and the viewership's going to be there on Thanksgiving anyway. And it's really just every year I have to answer the same question from my father. He says, why does Detroit always play on Thanksgiving, and why does Dallas always play? And I say it's just the tradition. I don't because but like why? Like how did the tradition start? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's something you got to go
There's
Wikipedia.
some of like there's some of the older teams, I guess, but like I just don't like the tradition. I feel like what's the point if like the team you want everyone's gonna watch? Don't you want to show your product off in a good way? Yeah, you could look at that in two ways. You could say everyone's gonna watch anyway. That's all we care about is the ratings, but don't you also want to show them a good product? Because people who don't ordinarily watch, who are watching, they'll say, "Hey, I can get into this," instead of watching the snooze fest. And they're like, "Why do you guys watch football?" And they're sitting there watching it. Like he has some family members who don't like football at Thanksgiving, and they're like, "This is why I don't watch. The games are so boring." But if you show them a good game, then maybe they'll get into it.
That's exactly what I don't think they get, which I think you made a good point. They did for like, I think a couple of years. There was like, I think like maybe 2012-ish, 2013, they were trying to do this and they gave up on it again, which I think if that's the point where you put a good, like, even if you know the line to be bad, put a good team on against them where you can say, okay, let's say they're playing, let's say Rodgers on backers, put Green Bay on again. We'll let Rodgers put on a show for them. And put a good match against the Cowboys because I don't think the Raiders will be very good. I think I can end up being like a lopsided, uncompetitive game. I think you give somebody in there who can be exciting, maybe once and change it up. So, it's not predictable where it's like, oh, the fifth most interesting team on Dallas' schedule will be their Thanksgiving opponent.
Yeah, either give them a good game, like 1 year, throw us like a Chiefs, whatever, or give me a big name. Now in the Chiefs case, that's both with Mahomes, or give me Ben Roethlisberger, give me Brady, give me Rodgers, give me someone, even if they're going to crush the other team, give me a game where it's like, oh, at least I can tune in and watch Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Someone that you're trying to, you're someone that you're trying to push as the face of the NFL.
Yeah. For me, and I know the NFL sometimes has gone out of its way also to try and break some of these Thanksgiving drafts. They did not do it this year, but the Rams haven't played Thanksgiving since 1975. This would have been a good year to get them in there against Dallas.
Really? 1975, huh?
I think it's the longest active drought of any NFL team.
And you said the Giants was roughly 30 years?
Since they played the Cowboys.
Well, yeah, they played Denver like 10 years ago, I think.
Yes.
It was a night game, but yeah. So, I would have thrown the Rams in there. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, obviously, in my mind, if you win the Super Bowl and win the NFC, you're the team to beat in the NFC. So I think Tampa's the team to beat in the NFC. But besides that, I think it's the Rams.
Yeah, and the Rams have a big name in quarterback in Matthew Stafford. So that's one where you could sell it here and say, here, come watch this game. And like, he's very interesting. And I was looking at the Rams because actually it was Detroit they were playing this year. So like that would have, they don't play either team, which is unfortunate. Like, why not that night game for the Rams?
I don't know. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I feel bad for the Rams because I do think they should have gotten a Thanksgiving shot this year. I also think we're getting 2 Christmas games again this year. We have the Packers hosting, I believe, it's the Browns, and then the Cardinals hosting the Colts. And this is sort of, again, I see the NFL trying to just muscle in that NBA Christmas Day turf to try and get some ratings.
I like the Colts-Cardinals matchup. I think both those teams are really good.
Yeah.
And if Rodgers is still around, I like the other matchup too.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the matchups, but I don't know, it's strange for me. Christmas was always basketball. Thanksgiving was always football. Christmas Eve was football. Christmas, not always, but a lot of the times Christmas Eve ended up having football. And then Christmas Day was always basketball. So it's a little odd.
Yeah. That's just the case where they're seeing opportunity because it falls on a Saturday. So, well, we'll just throw a couple games on there, just get some games on the air and just try and siphon some of that NBA audience away.
Yeah. I enjoy watching basketball on Christmas. So to me, it's like, now I got to choose, which is exactly what the NFL wants, but it's not what the NBA wants, I'll tell you that much.
And plus, the Knicks will be back there next year because they were good. You'll have the Nets on there. Like they'll have the NBA. The
Knicks will usually be there even if they're not good. The Knicks, the Lakers will be there. The Nets.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even when the Bulls are not good, they'll throw them in there. Just a big market. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, and the Knicks have not been on for a few years because they've been terrible. But after this year, they're going to be back in that noon and MSG slot on Christmas. You can take it to the bank.
Yeah, they usually throw the big markets versus the good teams.
Yeah.
And then right now the Knicks look like both, but you'll see that again. Hopefully we see that again. A nice NBA Christmas schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a future discussion for another day, Nick. I want to thank you for all the time. I really appreciate it. You're going to tag out for just a minute. We're Pete Considori, and we're going to talk about some hockey. Sound good to you?
Yeah, and when we come back, we're talking Clone Wars, and I can't wait.
Yeah, indeed. We'll be checking back in at the end of the podcast, do some Clone Wars. But I'll be joined by Pete Considori in just a minute, talk about the hockey, including the big news of the day, the Rangers firing head coach David Quinn right after this.